Debir Hayamim Bet, or 2nd Chronicles, chapter 27. Yotham was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Yerushalayim. And his mother's name was Yerusha, the daughter of Tzadok. And he did what was right in the eyes of Yehovah, according to all that his father Uzziyahu had done. Only he did not come into the Hekal of Yehovah, and the people continued to act corruptly. He built the upper gate of the house of Yehovah, and he built much on the wall of Ophel, and he built cities in the hill country of Yehudah, and in the forests. He built palaces and towers. And he fought with the sovereign of the Ammonites and had strong victory over them. And the children of Ammon gave him in that year 100 talents of silver and 10,000 cores of wheat and 10,000 of barley. This is what the children of Ammon paid him, also in the 2nd and 3rd years. And Yotham strengthened himself, for he prepared his ways before Yehovah his Elohim. And the rest of the acts of Yotham and all his battles and his ways, see, they're written in the book of the sovereigns of Israel and Yehudah. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 16 years in Yerushalayim. So Yotham slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city of David, and his son Ahaz reigned in his place. Yeshayahu, or Isaiah, chapter 9. But there is no gloom upon her who is distressed, as when at first he humbled the land of Zebulun and the land of Naphtali, and afterward more heavily oppressed her, by the way of the sea beyond the Yarden, in the Galil of the nations. The people who were walking in darkness have seen a great light. Upon those who dwelt in the land of the shadow of death, a light has shone. You shall increase the nation. You shall make its joy great. They shall rejoice before you as in the joy of harvest, as men rejoice when they divide the spoil. For you shall break the yoke of his burden and the staff of his shoulder, the rod of his oppressor, as in the day of Midian. For every boot of one trampling in tumult and coat rolled in blood shall be used for burning and fuel of fire. For a child is born unto us, a son is given unto us, and the rule is on his shoulder, and his name is called Wonder, Counselor, Strong El, Father of Continuity, Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his rule and peace, there's no end. Upon the throne of David and over his reign, to establish it and sustain it with right ruling and with righteousness from now on, even forever. The ardor of Yehovah of hosts does this. Yehovah sent a word against Yaakov, and it has fallen on Israel. And the people shall know, all of them, Ephraim and the inhabitants of Shomeron, who say in pride and greatness of heart, the bricks have fallen down, but we rebuild with hewn stones. The sycamores are cut down, but we replace them with cedars. And Yehovah set up the adversaries of Retzin against him, and stirred up his enemies, the Arameans before, and the Philistines behind. And they devour Israel with an open mouth. With all his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out, and the people have not turned back to him who strikes them, nor have they sought Yehovah of hosts. And Yehovah cuts off head and tail from Israel, palm branch and reed, in one day. Elder and highly respected, he is the head. The prophet who teaches falsehood, he is the tail. For the leaders of this people lead them astray, and those who are guided by them are swallowed up. Therefore Yehovah does not rejoice over their young men, and has no compassion on their fatherless and widows. For everyone's defiled and evil, and every mouth speaks foolishness. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out. For wrongness burns as the fire, it consumes thorn bushes and weeds, and sets the bushes of the forest ablaze, and they roll up like rising smoke. The land shall be burned up by the wrath of Yehovah of hosts, and the people be as fuel for the fire. A man shall not spare his brother, and cut down on the right hand, but shall be hungry, and he devours on the left hand, but shall not be satisfied, each one devouring the flesh of his own arm. Manasseh, Ephraim, and Ephraim, Manasseh, together they are against Yehudah. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back. His hand is still stretched out. Chapter 10. Woe to those making unrighteous inscriptions and writers who have prescribed toil to keep the needy back from right ruling, and to take what is right from the poor of my people, that widows become their prey and orphans their plunder. What shall you do in the day of visitation and in the ruin which comes from afar? To whom would you run for help, and where would you leave your wealth? Without me, they shall bow down among the prisoners and fall among the killed. With all this, his displeasure has not turned back, and his hand is still stretched out. Woe to Asher, the rod of my displeasure, and the staff in whose hand is my displeasure. Against a defiled nation I send him, and against the people of my wrath I command him to seize the spoil, to take the prey, and to tread them down like the mud of the streets. But he does not intend so, nor does his heart think so, for it is in his heart to destroy and cut off not a few nations. For he says, are not my princes sovereigns? Is not Calno like Carchemish? Is not Hamath like Arpad? Is not Shomeron like Damasek? As my hand has found the reins of the idols whose carved images excelled those of Yerushalayim and Shomeron, as I have done to Shomeron and her idols, do I not also do to Yerushalayim and her idols? And it shall be, when Yehovah has performed all his work on Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, that I shall punish the fruit of the greatness of the heart of the sovereign of Asher and the boasting of his haughty looks. For he has said, by the power of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I have been clever. And I remove the boundaries of the people, and have robbed their treasuries, and I put down the inhabitants like a strong one. And my hand finds the riches of the people like a nest, and I've gathered all the earth like forsaken eggs are gathered, and there was no one who moved a wing, nor opened a mouth, even with a peep. Would the axe boast itself over him who chops with it? Or the saw exalt itself over him who saws with it? As a rod waving those who lift up, as a staff lifting up that which is not wood. Therefore the Master, Yehovah of hosts, sends leanness among his fat ones, and under his esteem he kindles a burning like the burning of a fire. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his set apart one for a flame. And it shall burn and devour his weeds and his thorn bushes in one day, and consume the esteem of his forest and of his fertile field, both life and flesh. And they shall be as when a sick man wastes away, and the remaining trees of his forest shall be so few in number that a child records them. And in that day it shall be that the remnant of Israel and those who have escaped of the house of Yaakov never shall again lean upon him who struck them, but shall lean upon Yehovah, the set apart one of Israel, in truth. A remnant shall return, the remnant of Yaakov, to the mighty El. For though your people, O Israel, be as the sand of the sea, yet a remnant of them shall return, a decisive end, overflowing with righteousness. For the Master Yehovah of hosts is making a complete end, as decided, in the midst of all the earth. Therefore thus said the Master Yehovah of hosts, my people who dwell in Sion, be not afraid of Asher, who struck you with a rod, and lifts up his staff against you in the way of Mitzrayim. For yet a little while, and the displeasure shall be completed, and my displeasure be to their destruction. And Yehovah of hosts stirs up a lash for him as the smiting of Midian at the rock of Oreb. And as his rod was on the sea, so shall he lift it up in the way of Mitzrayim. And in that day it shall be that his burden is removed from your shoulder, and his yoke from your neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing oil. He has come upon Ayath, he has passed Migron, at Michmash he stored his supplies. They've gone through the pass, they've taken up lodging at Geba. Ramah is afraid, Geba of Shaul has fled. Lift up your voice, O daughter of Galium. Listen, Leishah. O poor Anathoth. Madmenah has fled. The inhabitants of Gebim sought refuge. Yet he remains at Nob that day. He shakes his fist at the mountain of the daughter of Zion, the hill of Yerushalayim. Look, the Master Yehovah of hosts is lopping off a branch with an awesome crash, and the tall ones are cut down, and the lofty ones are laid low. And he shall cut down the thickets of the forest with iron, and Lebanon shall fall as a mighty one. Chapter 11. And a rod shall come forth from the stump of Yishai, and a sprout from his roots shall be fruitful. The spirit of Yehovah shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge, and of the fear of Yehovah, and shall make him breathe in the fear of Yehovah. And he shall not judge by the sight of his eyes, nor decide by the hearing of his ears, but with righteousness he shall judge the poor, and shall decide with straightness for the meek ones of the earth, and shall strike the earth with the rod of his mouth, and slay the wrong with the breath of his lips. And righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and trustworthiness the girdle of his waist. And a wolf shall sojourn with the lamb, and a leopard lie down with the young goat, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child leads them. And a cow and a bear shall feed, their young ones lie down together, and a lion eats straw like an ox. And the nursing child shall play by the cobra's hole, and the weaned child shall put his hand in the adder's den. They do no evil, nor destroy in all my set-apart mountain. For the earth shall be filled with the knowledge of Yehovah as the waters cover the sea. And in that day there shall be a root of Yishai, standing as a banner to the people. Unto him the nations shall seek, and his rest shall be esteemed. And it shall be in that day that Yehovah sets his hand again a second time to recover the remnant of his people who are left from Asher and from Mitzrayim, from Pathros and from Cush, and from Elam and from Shinar, from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Israel and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. And the envy of Ephraim shall turn aside, and the adversaries of Yehudah be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Yehudah, and Yehudah not trouble Ephraim. But they shall fly down upon the shoulder of the Philistines toward the west. Together they plunder the people of the east, their hand stretching forth on Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall be subject to them. And Yehovah shall put under the ban the tongue of the sea of Mitzrayim, and he shall wave his hand over the river with the might of his spirit, and shall strike it in the 7 streams, and shall cause men to tread it in sandals. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, those left from Asher, as it was for Israel in the day when he came up from the land of Mitzrayim. And chapter 12. And in that day you shall say, I thank you, Yehovah. Though you were enraged with me, your displeasure has turned back, and you've comforted me. See, El is my deliverance. I trust and am not afraid. For Yehovah, is my strength and my song, and he has become my deliverance. And you shall draw water with joy from the fountains of deliverance. And in that day you shall say, Praise Yehovah, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the peoples, make mention that his name is exalted. Sing to Yehovah, for he has done excellently. This is known in all the earth. Cry aloud and shout, O inhabitant of Zion, for great is the set apart one of Israel in your midst.